Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day and welcome to our IMG Match Navigator webinar series. As Match Day is approaching, as an applicant itself, I can tell how much nervousness and, how much anxiety is creeping in every applicant's mind when it comes to, what is my rank order list going to look like? Do I have sufficient interviews? Do I have sufficient interviews to match, or will I be able to match into my dream program? And questions related to that. And most importantly, as IMGs and as fellow applicants, something which we have not paid enough attention is what are our expectations for intern year? How would be able to be a successful intern in whichever program we match into? So for answering all those questions, we are really fortunate that Dr. Devendranath Manuru has taken his voluntary time to share with us a presentation and talk and answer all of our questions related to this. Introducing Dr. Manuru, he is the founder and chief executive officer of Clinical Practice Foundation Skills LLC. He is an associate clinical professor. He has been a past associate program director and clerkship coordinator for the Department of Internal Medicine at the University of North Dakota School of Medicine. Dr. Manuru has years of experience in clinical medicine, medical education, and research and scholarly activities. And today, on behalf of Clinical Practice Foundation Skills, we and AMSA are working together to help all the applicants of 2025 cycle and also future applicants to identify the factors and parameters when it comes how exactly an intern year would look and how can I ensure to have a good rank order list. So thank you so much, Dr. Manuru, for taking our time for today's session. And I'll hand over to you so that you can start sharing your words of wisdom on the sad topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratyush. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're logging on from. Uh, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So my objective today is to give you some understanding on this ranking process. Now, I want you to be clear that this is purely my impression and suggestion. So impression and suggestion are two different entities. And I want you to understand that this is how I see it, and this is what I would recommend. But ultimately, it is your decision, your life, and how you want to deal with it and how you want to deal with your decisions is totally in your hands. Uh, I will give you the knowledge that I have accrued over the years, and I will also give you some real data to support what I'm trying to say. And at the end, we can answer any questions you might have. So when you think of the ranking process, it's going to be about, I would say, maybe about 15, 20 minutes of presentation. So at any point, if you have a question, feel free to raise a hand if it is relevant to the topic or the slide. I will stop and answer the question. I can't see everyone. So, Pratyush, if there is a question, feel free to just stop me and then we
Sure.
can answer that question and then move forward to the next slide. I am not super tech savvy, so I can't navigate everything. So, I'm just going to look at the computer on the slide and talk to you. Okay. All right. So, when you think of ranking process, let's go. Remember, the ranking process of residencies and fellowships is applicant driven. This is a core concept that you have to understand. It is applicant driven. So it is not what the program is going to rank you at first. Yes, what the program will rank you at does matter, but what you rank the program as is the starting step. So don't forget that. It is an applicant driven process. I didn't know this when I applied. I wasn't even sure how this all worked out. Obviously, I could have reviewed and probably learned a little bit more, but now technology is so much and social media has grown over the last 25 years that you all have access to a lot of things. So, however, you have access to so much information from so many people and so many uh, locations that you might get confused. So my take home point to you is it's applicant driven, number one. So for that, you register on the NRMP site. If you haven't done, there were close to 1,000 plus or 2,000 candidates who haven't yet registered. So make sure you do that if you want to match or if you want to participate in the match. Number two, applicants will rank programs where they want to train in the most preferred order. We will talk about most preferred order as we go through the slides and try to understand the data a little bit. Programs also rank applicants who they want to train. So it's not just you. Obviously, they want to rank candidates who they want to train in their most preferred order. Now, their most preferred order might be different. Your most preferred order might be different, but that's the marriage of both lists that creates the rank order. Now, these lists are electronically entered. Obviously, quite a lot of people know about this, but there might be certain folks who are still trying to figure out all of these aspects. So, this presentation is for everyone. So, obviously, if you know certain things, excellent, but just give some time for others to also understand because they might not be up to speed as much as you are. Remember, view the matching algorithm video to understand what the NRMP team has to say. And most of this information, like I have quoted down there, was pulled out of from NRMP. So it's not something I have put together on my own. Next, when making a decision, this is something I have put together on my own. Obviously, there are institutions that will tell you that, yes, go ahead and do it from where you want to actually practice, not where your interview went well. I would argue that it's not so black and white. I would not encourage you to just go black and white that, yes, if I want to, practice in Mayo or train at Mayo and I got an interview, and then I also got an interview from a program called X, and they had everything that Mayo had. And in fact, my interview also went even more promising based on what I heard from everyone from program X. I just have to decide which one should I choose. I wouldn't just blindly go with Mayo because that's where I want to train. You have to factor three things, and that's what we're going to talk about. One, what do you want from a program? You have to make that list. I cannot create that. Now, what do you want from a program can be different. It can be subspecialty option. It could be a university setting training. It could be a geographic presence because of your family situation, or it could be some sort of a social situation with your friends and colleagues being a part of the program. It could be a different you know uh, box of ingredients that you want from a program. So you will have to look at that. I can't tell you that. Once you look at that, then you have to marry or cross compare what does that program offer to you that you interviewed at. That's your second question that you need to ask yourself. And how many factors align? Now let's say you have 10 factors and the program has 15 factors, but you align only in two factors, then you have to figure out which one do you want to rank first on or the next. Now, the third domain that I would encourage you all to factor in is what was your overall experience with the program. Now, when I say overall experience, includes their structured way of approaching you, their structured way of communicating with you, their structured way of engaging in interviews and follow ups with you, and how is their system structured. Obviously, they can go out of the way to satisfy you, but you have to understand what their culture is, how does it fit with yours, and where does it all blend. So these are the three factors that you should strongly think about before you rank a program. Any questions? I will stop here and ask.
No, I guess.
If there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand or also share it in the chat box if you have any mic issues.
Perfect. Thank you. And we have kept this session so open because we want to have students ask questions. A lot of times these webinars is just going to be telling you stuff and then they sign off. But we wanted to have this session where there's more engagement from both parties.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, next thing, please do not rank programs where you did not receive an interview or where you did not interview at. So there are two things. Yes, you might have applied. If you did not get an interview, you can't rank that program. It's not going to go anywhere. Or if you chose to not interview, but you got an interview, you still don't rank it because you did not interview at that place. Do not wait until the last minute to enter your rank order list, hoping that you will get one more interviews, two more interviews, but it's situation based. I can't say you should not do that, but I'm just telling you, just be on top of things and don't keep it to the last minute. Make sure you have your Excel sheets or your notes made about these 3 points and start looking at it. I will tell you, when you look at it on day one and you look at it on day 10, you might have a different perspective. You might just have a different way of how you looked at it day one versus day 10. So give yourself some time to understand that. Now, there's probably some candidates, if they look at it too often, they'll get more confused. You have to figure that out. I know that can happen, and the more time you have, you will kind of start double questioning or second guessing. So, but just think about it in a in a way that I'm sharing with you on this slide. Obviously, if you have a better way of looking at it, it's your choice. This is just my suggestion and impression. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at we're going to look at this through two lenses. The first lens is the program director's lens. For that, I do have some data that I have pulled out of NRMP's public reporting on their website. And this data is called as Program Directors Survey Results. It is administered every other year, and we were lucky that in 2024, they did administer this survey to 6,390 program directors, out of which 1,150 responses were received. Now, some basic background to understand the next slides. Let me build that up on this slide. So you have to understand, this is a NRMP survey that was sent out to all programs, almost all ACGME programs or NRMP programs, or that were in the NRMP program list, out of which 1,150 programs completed the survey. So the overall response was 18%. But the concept of statistics and research comes into play here. Now, is 18% valid? Did we hit the p-value? Are we good to call this a guideline or a practice model that you could use? It's hard to tell, but to my knowledge, any survey response rates of 18 are decent enough. So if you do have such a high, decent response, you can take it. And unfortunately, you don't have a better alternative, right? If you have a different alternative where you can say, oh, yeah, the rest 5,000 program directors think of it differently, you can tell me, but I don't have any information about that. And I personally don't think that they would be thinking very different than what I am going to be sharing with you moving forward. Now, look at this. So this is the total response rate. Now, the next background information I want you to keep in mind is there were factors that were sent out to these program directors in that survey, and they were expected to rank the factor as 1 through 5, 5 being the most important factor, 1 being not so important factor. Then the second part of that aspect or that you need to be keeping in mind as we move forward is the percentage of answering for each factor was different. So out of the 1,150 responses that were received from program directors, it's quite possible that only 50% answered one question, 80% answered the other question in the survey. So there was no hard stop in the survey that expected these 1,150 responders to answer 100% of the survey. Does that make sense? Are we clear? Clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Because that's very important for you to get an idea about. Anyway, obviously, this is important. Next, we will go through each subspecialty and you will see the different factors that were considered. When you look at internal medicine, this slide has the factors that were answered by more than 50% of the respondents. More than 50% of the respondents who answered to this question are the factors that I actually put out on this slide. There are quite a lot. You can actually go down on that uh, site that I have shared on the slide and look at it. But when you look at this, interpersonal skills, interactions with faculty, your USMLE Step 2 score, USMLE Step 1 pass or fail, interactions with your house staff during the interview, any failed attempts, there are some interesting things. History of having overcome significant obstacles. Remember that meaningful experience, most impactful experience, uh, sharing those honestly and truthfully, they do matter. Feedback from current residents, letters of recommendation, personal statement, and then if you look at it, other life experiences, volunteer and extracurricular activities. So this is pretty much the list that internal medicine program directors used when they were looking to rank candidates. This is family medicine list. It's no big different. It is pretty much, I think, similar. But when you look at all, we'll have a slide that shows what did all program directors feel about this and what did they think were the factors that they used for ranking candidates at the end. This is psychiatry. When you look at psychiatry, it's interesting. If you see this, is there anything that stands out to you that was
Scores
not?
moves along.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I also read it in the chat. Like the score is like towards the 58 range, compared to other specialities. And the interpersonal skills and personal statement and commitment and leadership qualities, they are like very high up. Maybe that's
Exactly. Exactly. You're right. That is correct. Now let's look at another subspecialty. What do you think here is different?
I will let anyone else answer this. So
Yeah.
anyone can notice it, feel free to raise your hand. I saw some thumbs up, but could you please raise your hand again so I can call you out and you can share what you notice. Oh, I see Ashwak. Please go ahead, Ashwak.
Yeah, I think feedback from current residents.
I agree with you, and I think if you look, yeah, that has such high weightage in these programs. So, uh, I mean, I don't think NRMP will tell you this, but what I can tell you is you can use individual subspecialty data to understand where should you put weight on in your future endeavors. Not for this math cycle, but for future, you can actually look at these and say, okay, how do I build my rapport with these residents? Where do I connect? How can I engage in these? Now, when you look at these letters of recommendation, I am telling you, letters of recommendation are very heavy in their weightage. But then, how do these people who are writing letters for you are actually writing them matters? So it's not just a simple letter from a big surgeon. It actually has to explain what your skills are, what your personal attributes are, how are you going to be a great candidate for the program and stuff like that. So yeah, these are all things that are very important. Let's move on to anesthesia. If you look at this, again, step 2 score has extreme weightage, uh, and then history of overcoming obstacles is interesting. And when you see addition or rotations within a department do help, for US medical graduates, I think it is possible for international medical graduates, it can be challenging to do something like that. So we will all have our positives and negatives, or your advantages or disadvantages. So this is just a conglomeration of everything. So this is the slide that speaks about what all program directors have actually looked at when they have decided to rank candidates. One, your interview. Your interview is very important. I am telling you again and again, I have done a webinar on mock interviews during this season, and I have requested students to really engage in mock interviews so that you actually train yourself before you go for the interviews. It can be with anyone. It doesn't have to be with CPFS, but what I'm trying to tell you is you cannot ignore the weightage of how much an interview can impact your ranking. You already got in there because of your academic skills, but now they need to know you as a person, and if you cannot deliver during that short time frame, it's going to be hard. Yes, delivering in 15 minutes about you or your talent is hard. I understand that. But at the same time, they hiring you and having you for 3 years just based on that 15-minute interaction is also hard. You should know how much suffering that they might go through if they're hiring a wrong candidate and have to go through problems. Next, feedback from current residents is very important. So if you have networking and you know people, you can't just go and tell them, yeah, put in a word for me. No, they need to know you so that they can actually put in a word for you. So you need to create certain environments where you can have such interactions with these current residents so that you can actually have them tell about you. Interaction with house staff during interview. These are program coordinators. These are people who are in that lobby or that interaction rooms that you are in during interviews. So they are equally important. Look at the weightage. It's close to 76% of the 1,150 respondents said that this factor had a weightage of more than 4.7%, or grading wise from a Likert scale, it was very high. Any questions on this slide?
Yes, sir. So we had one question from Miss Hele Mariam. She wanted if you can please specify again for internal medicine what would them like most important. I think internal medicine is one of the most sought out field for IMGs. So she wanted
Sure.
to, yeah.
Okay, we can go back to internal medicine. So when you look at this, Helmanium, interpersonal skills, how your interactions were with the faculty during your interview, what's your step two score, what was your interaction with house staff during your interview, did you show any professionalism and ethics in your CV, what was the feedback? So these are all the things. Ask me any question on this slide. Maybe that'd be easier for me
Mm.
to elaborate on
Sure.
than me reading the slide.
Sure. Feel free to, use the Q&A box so you can raise your hand. Miss Hilarim, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If not, I apologize for the same in advance, and that's for the entire webinar. Also, I see another hand raised by Valerie. Could you please go ahead and, ask your question?
Hello.
Hi, Valerie.
So I have this kind of information that if, for example, you're applying for general surgery, for example, but you also have applied for different residencies rather than only general surgery. I have information that this changes some like this decreases the chances of you getting into one specialty because it's not like dedicated, kind of dedicated. Is it true or not? Can we, for example, choose both surgical, non-surgical at the same time in case, like, in order of ranking? Does it affect the percentage of matching into residency, etc.?
So, Valerie, if I'm understanding your question is if you have applied to 2 or 3 specialties, and if you decide to rank them, to my knowledge, I think you have to rank all of them as one list. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pratyush. Let's say you have medicine, you have family medicine, you have surgery, the candidate can only rank it as one list. or Moksha or anybody else?
Yeah. I think it's one list, but feel free to correct us, as far I'm aware, it's one list is yeah.
So now, once you rank them in one list, obviously, Valerie, look at this. Let's say you had three internal medicine interviews and you had three surgery interviews, and you decided to put, and this is a hypothetical example. Let's say you decided to put surgery in rank three, uh, and that was the only surgery program you had. And let's say the surgery program had uh, maybe only two positions. I'm just saying. So the people who probably rank that program as rank one and two will match there, provided they have not ranked a different program in that level. Okay, does that make sense? So,
Yeah, yeah.
as the program fills up, your chances go down. So you will have to decide where you put surgery and where you put medicine. So that is what is going to define where you will rank. But go ahead.
One of the things in the list was dedication toward the profession. For example, if I choose some gen surgery, some gen surgery residency, for example, first one, and I got interviewed there. Like if they see my list, if they can see my list,
They
is
can't.
there a, they cannot?
No, no.
Oh,
They
okay.
can,
So
yeah,
yeah, I was afraid of the questions like if I go to general surgery interview and they ask why you applied also for internal medicine. Are you not dedicated for general surgery, for example, something like that?
sure. So see, I think your question is two-pronged. So the first part of the question is if I go to a medicine and surgery interview in the same hospital. Is that correct?
Yes, for example, yes, this also.
For example, right? If you go there, usually to my knowledge, in the based on the volume of applications that programs are receiving, they really don't have that much time to have a centralized GME station to look at which candidate is applying to how many programs. Okay. So you can apply to surgery, you can apply to medicine if you want. Now, God forbid you see the surgery faculty when you go for the internal medicine residency program interview. Obviously, that might not look good, but it is what it is. But from a program level standpoint, I don't think
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. So now when you look at this, like I said, interview, interview, interview. Please, candidates who are applying for next year, understand this concept. Good step two score, no failed attempts, a good letter of recommendation. Your commitment to the specialty has to be obvious. It doesn't matter if you see, I'll tell you, Valerie, I wanted to do surgery. And I thought surgeons are doctors, rest all are quacks. That's how I thought when I started my journey as a medical student. I, in fact, even worked as a surgery house officer for 3 years before I switched. When I first came here, I applied for a residency for both medicine and surgery. Then I knew I applied for medicine also because it's not like I didn't like medicine. It's just that I knew that surgery, my chances might be lower. But to my surprise, during my first cycle of match, I got four surgery interviews and I only got like two medicine interviews. But then I chose the next year that maybe surgery is not my forte. I just want to move because of my personal reasons, not my love for surgery had gone down. It's just that my priorities changed and I just applied for medicine. So in short, it is okay if that's how it is going to be. IMGs, I understand.
Yeah. I also see Xavier's hand raised up. So if Xavier, you want to go ahead next?
Hey, yes, I had a question. I wanted to know about how we should rank multiple specialties. And I know it wouldn't affect if I rank them together or separately. It wouldn't affect where I end up. But I was just curious about if someone who is comfortable with both the specialties, say if you're applying med peds and peds and you're comfortable with both patient populations and don't really have a strong preference, what are the factors that one can consider, like location or just curriculum, or the years we spend in a program? And I just like wanted your perspective on it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Xavier, for that question. Also, so you can reshare your
Yes, of course.
screen.
Thank
I
you.
just like change the settings of the meeting, so only co-host can do that. So, I think students were mistakenly like activating whiteboards and everything. So, you can reshare your screen, sir.
Oh, okay. I will do that. Let me do that. One second. I have to find myself. Okay. Let me do that. Okay. Let me know if you can see
Yes,
it, and
we
then
can
I
see
will.
the screen, sir. And thank you for the question, Valerie. Were you able to hear the question, sir, or should we repeat the question?
Can you
Mhm.
can you repeat it, Pratish, or have Valerie,
Yeah.
Xavier?
Valerie, could you please repeat the question? Or Xavier, sorry, I'm sorry. Could you?
I I was not asking the question. It was Xavier.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I can. And I'll try to summarize it better. I was just saying that if you're applying to multiple specialties and don't really have a preference on which specialty you want to end up with, like in my case, it's med peds and pediatrics, how do you think I should go about ranking it? And what are the factors that I can consider outside of just specialties?
Xavier, I would ask you to consider these 3 points. So if you put the subspecialty out of the bucket, and let us assume you have 10 programs or 6 programs from different subspecialties or specialties that you have interviewed with, just look at these 3 points. And now, like I said, how do you tease out these 3 points? They're still in your hands. So one, that's why I'm sharing with you all the factors that the program director actually looks at. And now if we go back, I'll show you one more slide. So this is what I would encourage you to look at. So where do you think your interview went fantastic? Where do you think your feedback from current residents would be most positive? Obviously, it's an assumption, it's a hypothetical aspect that it's not purely hypothetical, but it is something that you're actually speculating or assuming or, developing an impression and then trying to create these numbers. They will not be perfect, but they will be to the best of your judgment on that day. So don't shoot yourself if you're not right, but just think about these factors. Okay, where do these factors align with the program that I want to rank first, with the program I want to rank second, with the program I want to rank third? How do I figure out which one stands first, which one stands second, which one stands third? I will show you in the next few slides what the candidates actually looked at before they chose the rank order list. So once you know this and once you know what the candidates actually looked at, maybe it'll give you a better idea on, okay, what are all the factors should I look at or think about before I rank them? Does that answer your question to some extent, Xavier?
Yes, and I'm looking forward to the following slides so that I can figure it out. But you're very right. Yeah, it's just hard to quantify how you felt about a program, and you just kind of have to go off of your gut feeling and answer the 3 questions. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, see, what do you want from a program is very important. See, let's say you have a family and you are situated in Houston and you cannot move, and a quality of life is very important. And then you close your eyes and figure out what's most important. Is your geographical preference important, or is your I don't care where I go, I need to get in is important, or my subspecialty interest is important, and that program has all of that is important. So you have to figure out what you want.
Mhm.
Then you have to marry it with what the program offers. And then the third piece of the equation is how did you feel overall? So what I am sharing with the slides is okay, what are all the factors? But remember, what you want in life is important at that point. What does the program offer? And then you factor in all of these things after that.
Yeah. Thank you, sir,
Okay.
for your answer. I also have one more question and two quick questions actually. So
Mhm.
one from Nikichi is, what application does programs who did interview with us see the program where we matched? So she wants to ask that, will the program where we interviewed will later be able to know where we exactly match and, track down? Uh,
No, no.
okay.
They won't know because they will only get where if what candidates matched in their program.
Mhm.
But they usually don't have access to where you went and all that stuff, to
Yeah.
my knowledge.
Yeah. And also, with the number of applications and everything, I think it's just so much of work for anyone, to do all of that as well. And
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
have one more question. How do interviewers and program directors use notes of interviewers to quantify subjective interpersonal skills for ranking?
It's
So,
a great question. So, Thalamus is the platform that at least majority of the programs use to host interviews, to get application information or applicants' information. There are also notes or spaces that Thalamus offers for interviewing faculty or staff to put information as they're interviewing a candidate. So some notes are probably Likert scales, like, excellent, very professional, blah, 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 or some are free text. So it all depends on what type of uh, note taking uh, structure that that program wants to have that they can individually build. So that's one. Then there's also a checklist that some programs have with paper that they can use. So in that checklist, one, physical appearance is one. Because did they really prepare and dress themselves up and come for the session, or they just woke up and yeah, and you won't believe, I'm telling you, there are students who will come as if they're just coming doing a favor to you. Might not be the case in 90% of the students, but there are a few students who will come because, you know, I got an interview. I already had done 18 interviews. I'm just coming for the heck of it. There are people like that. They don't want candidates like that, number one. So, how is your physical appearance? Second, how is your virtual appearance? Third, how is your verbal communication? These are all things that people note down. How are your non-verbal communications? For example, you're seeing me, I'm having hands, I'm bending in, I bought a light, I have a good camera. So these are all things that matter. Obviously, you're not paying for the flights, so you invest on all of these things because you need to create an impression in those 15 minutes. So these are all things that they look at when they see interpersonal skills, when they see interactions with faculty. So those are the things that are actually marked or gauged during the interview.
thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing that, and even from, my experience of interviewing this season, sometimes, the interviewer is like typing something and, at first I thought, oh, maybe, I'm losing, like he's losing interest in the interview. But now when you say, I didn't actually know that Thalamus is the platform where there's note keeping opportunities as well for, the interviewers. So thank you for sharing that. And I think for the rest of the questions, feel free to put in the chat box. We'll, like, towards the end of the session, we'll address the next half of the questions.
Okay, perfect. So now let's move on to what residents actually chose to use to rank programs. So again, NRMP sent out a survey, and the survey was sent out to I think, 44,810 candidates. And there were about 12,000 responses. The response rate was 27.4%. It's better than the program director survey. But again, what's the volume? The volume is very high. I would have expected a little more engagement. Now, same rules apply. I have only put together or collated factors that had response rate of 50% or more from these 12,000 candidates that completed the surveys. And I have also rated the factors purely based on that 50% or more. I didn't rank them, or I didn't collate them based on how important they were from 1 to 5, because I thought more responses, more value. Internal medicine. This was what the candidates looked at when they chose to rank programs. Now you have to take this with a grain of salt. Future fellowship training opportunities at the institution was ranked very high. But then you have to also understand, I don't know if the candidates who took the survey were only those candidates who were going to a university or stuff like that. See, there were 44,000 surveys that went out. And when you look at internal medicine surveys, there were 391 surveys that were sent out for US MD seniors, US DO seniors. 45 surveys were sent. Oh, sorry, I apologize. 3,778 surveys were sent out to US MD seniors. 1,727 was sent out to US DO seniors. All other applicant types include graduates, US graduates, IMGs, and Canadian school graduates. So all three. So US graduates are people who actually graduated last year. Got it? So when you look at this, in the all other applicants bucket, 41.6% actually replied back, but I don't know how many of them are IMGs and how many of them are purely US grads. So I can't really tell you the breakdown further because it's not even available on NRMP. Now, internal medicine, interview day experience was one of the biggest things. Future training, desired geographic location, reputation of the program. Look at this beautiful thing. Quality of a program director was also important. I mean, during my time, if I got into residency, that was enough for me. Now today, the level has gone up. The quality of a program director also matters. Well, it is important. I don't disagree, but I think it's good to know that. So it's also good to know for program directors that they need to be of better quality if they want good students too. So any question on this slide? If not, let's move. Family medicine. Go ahead. Somebody was saying something.
No, sir, we can move ahead. I'm noting
Okay.
down the ones and we can address them at the end.
Okay. So family medicine also pretty much the same thing. Psychiatry, same thing. If you look at it, quality of the program director and quality of residents in the program were rated very high. Work-life balance apparently is super important for psychiatry residents. I don't disagree. They're lucky. And I know this because I have been responsible to scheduling 4 months of psychiatry resident rotations in internal medicine during their intern year for 6 residents every year over the past 7 years. So I know how their work-life balance is important. They're good kids, and they learn a lot. And they come with a lot of enthusiasm even to medicine. Next, pediatrics. Again, these were the factors that were uh, looked at by candidates. Overall goodness to fit or overall goodness of fit is nothing but those 3 points I told you. I tried to figure out, okay, how do I measure overall goodness of fit? Now, what is overall goodness of fit? There are so many characters here, there's so many factors, and then there's this overall goodness of it. What is that? How is it separate? So that's where I'm telling you, what do you want in life? What does that individual program offer? And what was your overall experience? All of them together is called overall goodness of fit. That's the best way I could come up with what that meant like. Any questions on this slide? If not, let's go to general surgery. Again, quality of program director is so important. We recently did not recently, a few months ago, I did a fantastic webinar with a program director. He is phenomenal. Trust me, he's so good. Uh, I really think it is important to have a good program director uh, when you join a program. Anesthesia, again, different things, but almost a lot of overlap. Now, when we go to the all resident list, overall goodness to fit was one of the biggest things that residents used. The second thing is how was their experience during their interview day? What was the positive vibe that they got? How much do they really believe in that vibe that they got? Is it lip service or is it genuine statements that they received? Is the desired geographic location very important? Well, it was important for these 12,000 candidates overall, but was it important for the ones that did not answer? I don't know. But I know for sure overall goodness to fit, interview day experience, repetition of a program, quality of a curriculum. I think those are the outstanding things that people actually look at before they rank a program. So, my takeaways for you on the ranking process is it is applicant driven. It doesn't matter how many subspecialties you're going to put in that list. You still have to look at the three W's and then figure out the ranking. Now, the three W's have to be factored for each program. You have to take a full day. If you have 10 interviews or 4 interviews or 5, sit down, put the three W's, then figure out, okay, out of these 10, what's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? A week later, reevaluate that. Again, see if it's going to be the same. If it stays the same, then I think you're ready to submit your rank order list. But if you're really indecisive or if you are worried that you will mess up if you looked at it 10 times, then don't do it. I'm not going to suggest that you do that. You choose your comfort zone and decide. Again, available data that I shared is limited, but it is very valuable and directional. So when you think of all residents, these are the things that they actually looked at. And when you think of all program directors, these are the things that they looked at. But when you look at both, the common things that they all agreed on was the interview day. Step 2 is important. LORs are important. Personal statement, super important. So these are all things, but when you look at both, I think the interpersonal and interactions were very common. Let's go back to this slide. You'll see. Obviously, other things will not be common because the questions are also different. They're not going to ask, what is your quality as a program director, right? To the program director, that'll be challenging to answer. Any questions? I think we're going to move to the next
Mhm.
agenda topic.
Yeah, we have one question in the chat box that's, does having a standalone children's hospital matter when considering pediatrics?
No, it does not matter. What matters, I will tell you, is getting a residency.
Yeah.
Why? Once you get into residency, you can always learn things that you could not afterwards. You get into a residency, you put your hard work, you pass your boards, you be professional, you support the system and the country and the institutions that you have joined. and you build yourself afterwards. That is my straight, simple answer to your question.
Thank you, sir. Next question, which students have asked is in interpersonal skills and interactions with faculty, also checking with interpersonal skills, how these are different and marked, quantified differently. Do students who ask questions from faculty during interviews or post interviews are most important too?
So interpersonal skills, like I mentioned, include what is your overarching presentation. That's number one. Number two, interpersonal skills include how are you paying attention. So let's say if I come and I sit down and I'm interviewing with you and I say, "Hi, I am Dr. Manuru." If you did not get my name, the best answer would be, "I apologize, doctor. I couldn't catch your name. Could you say that again?" But if somebody is afraid, obviously quite a lot are, and don't want to ask that question and then say, "Hi, Dr. Moruru," it doesn't sound right. I would excuse you because, I understand your situation, but everybody might not be me. So that's one of the interpersonal communication skills aspects. So ask a clarifying question. These are the things that they're looking at. But now, when you ask me, okay, is there a defined template on how they look at things? Technically, no. I don't think there's a strong template that will say, okay, did they do this? There are certain checklists, but they're very different from each program. So I can't really speak to the 6,000 programs, what they have. What was the second question, Pratish?
Yeah. Do students who ask questions from the faculty during interviews or post interviews are very important as well?
Yes. Asking questions during interviews is important. Why? It shows your engagement, number one. Two, it can also tell about your skill, tell about your level of knowledge, tell about your overarching or, big picture understanding. However, it's a double-edged sword. Now, let us say you ask a really not so great question, it might reflect negatively for you. Now, the other thing you have to understand is, please remember, don't ask questions to uh, challenge the program, or don't ask questions to challenge the program director to show that you're super talented. How is it going to help? If you are going to put me in a position where I feel that I am lower than another program, I will think you probably don't like me. I will think you're probably too overqualified for me. And I will also, as a human, feel not nice. So your questions should have certain objectives when you ask them to the program. One, your questions should serve the purpose of you being able to be considered as a candidate. Your questions should also declare that you're talented. And then your questions can be a clarifying question saying, "Dr. Manuru, I saw on your website that you mentioned about point of care ultrasound, but can you elaborate on the curriculum? Is it a 1 year thing, 2 years thing, 3 year thing? I'm very interested." So those are certain types of questions you ask. Like, for example, general surgery. Let's say Valerie asks a question to a program director. Uh, if everything is written out on that page of that program, and Valerie asks, "Oh, by the way, what are your missions and visions of the program?" Then I'll be like, "Okay, looks like you didn't even look at my website and came for the interview." But now, if Valerie said, "Dr. Manuru, by the way, in your mission statement, you said you would want physicians to train and serve this community? Do residents get opportunities in terms of jobs around this community? What is the job market like to serve this community? Finish. Valerie's bell is ding, 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 ding. You know why? Because Valerie asked a mission statement question. And also, Valerie smartly said, "Oh, I want to practice here if I train." So think about it. Then the program director might ask Valerie, "Well, Valerie, why do you want to practice here? You haven't even trained here." Then Valerie will say, "Well, Dr. Manuru, my, so and so X or Y lives here. I have visited this place when I was writing my steps. I always looked up around this area. So I would love to stay and try it. I'm not saying 100%, but I would like to know what my options are from a job perspective after I train here. That's why I asked." It's like, finish. Valerie signed. So that's the type of question you need to ask, right? Not like, "Oh, do you send us to John Hopkins? Oh, by the way, in Harvard they do this. Do you do that? Well, then go to Harvard." Right? Don't come to me. So that's the power of questioning.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We have a few more questions. And the next question is, would letters of intent, I think it's one of the legendary questions, everyone has been asking around. Would letters of intent influence the program's ranking of the candidates?
They can. They can, but do they do it all the time? I can't say for sure. It depends on the size of the program, the number of positions, the number of applications that a program has received, and how much time do they have in their hands to actually look at this. For example, if you take an East Coast program, they have about 40 to 50 positions each year, and they get about 4,000 applications, give or take. Now, out of the 4,000 applications, to my knowledge, they interview close to 500. Now, that's a big undertaking to actually drop 4,000 to 500 and then sit down and rank 50 candidates out of the 500. That's already so much time these faculty are actually putting in. So it's very challenging for these faculty to actually look at an email and then acknowledge, okay, there's a letter of intent. I think we can look at it more. It's challenging, but I am not saying it's not done. Now, when you compare it to a program that has 5 positions, 500 applications, and they have only interviewed 50 candidates for the 5 positions, and they have time in their hands, then there's a chance. So it's all about relativity of where the situation is, what sort of stress everybody is going through, or timelines that they have to fulfill, that these letters of intents can be looked at or can be missed. Not intentionally, it's just that people cannot do it. They are human.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We have a couple of questions lining up, but I think we can move forward so that we cover the rest of the second half. And then, students who want to stay logged in and, ask questions, we can give them the forum at that time as well. I'm keeping a note of all the questions so I do not miss any.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to the next part of the story. See, you've matched into a residency program. I will tell you a small story before I go to the next slides. I matched into a residency program in 2008. I also applied in 2006 cycle. I applied. I didn't get a residency in 2007. So 2007, I applied again. And then I matched into residency in 2008. Once I matched, I thought I was done. I thought I won the world. I thought I'm on cloud nine. And I thought I will do this in a jiffy, or, I thought I'd just do it even closing my eyes because I was good. I was good as a physician. I was good as a house officer. People would always wait for me. when I would be an assistant surgeon in the operating rooms because they always wanted me and all of that. I thought I knew everything. And my English is no different than what it was 20 years ago. So I really didn't have a problem with English. However, when I started residency, and I would tell you, we had a 1 week of orientation, and that every residency program does offer orientation, but that orientation is crammed with hospital policies and bylaws and compliance, and there are a lot of people who want to meet with you during that 1 week. So that happened to me. I started residency. I really couldn't keep my head over the waters. I I literally pushed myself, and I finally was able to get done with really good commendation. But my 6 months initially just went learning, understanding the system, trying to acclimatize myself. Uh, and I always thought, I wish there was a better way getting onboarded than what happened that day. Fast forward 20 years, I still see international medical graduates and also US medical graduates struggle between medical school and joining residency. So what I did in University of North Dakota, I created boot camps for medical school students around clinical practice and health system sciences topics, and I've been teaching them for the last 4 years. Till date, I get so many feedbacks from medical students in the US saying that your guidance during medical school on these topics helped me get my feet wet during residency quickly, and I was on the go like this. I've had IMGs who have struggled over the last few years because they just didn't get onboarded to the level that they could have been. So I encourage you to prepare yourselves for residency once you match. I will share the topics that you can focus on your own. These are the most important topics that any incoming intern, now it can be Valerie, who is a surgeon, or it can be Xavier, who is a med-peds resident, or it could be Pratyush, who is thinking of internal medicine, or anyone else. But transitioning to residency is a very crucial step. Why it is a crucial step? If you are well prepared, yes, I'm not telling you you're going to be 100%. But what I'm trying to tell you is if you prepare yourself before that 1 week onboarding, the 1 week onboarding will pretty much be a booster or a primer for you versus you trying to get everything sorted out during that 1 week. So during medical school training, there is great emphasis on basic sciences and clinical sciences. But once you get into residency, there is a heavy emphasis on clinical practice and health system sciences topics. So obviously, you don't get all of that training when you are in medical school to that level, but that overnight change from a fourth year medical student to a resident expects you way much, which sometimes people have trouble fulfilling. Appropriate and adequate transition efforts will help with your well-being, will reduce your burnout, will facilitate effective, efficient, and safe patient care. That's more important. Why are we doing all of this? So that we provide quality care, we get notified as good physicians, and we take care of our lives and families. What can you do to make your journey much smoother? Please try to gain knowledge and skills about these important topics. I will share with them. Resident assessments, evaluation, and grading. You can look up ACGME, get as much as information as you can get from there, learn different things you need to know so that you will know what are you going to be assessed against? Who is assessing you? How is this assessment happening? How will I know if I am graduating properly or not? Will I pass the residency or not? It shouldn't come as a shock after you start training. Then you have to figure all of this out. You have so much, and you'll say, you know what? Let me just worry about what I need to worry about and forget about this. Let the program decide. That's not right. Medical record documentation, another big topic. Please understand, it is not to serve an institution. Think about it. If Valerie does not write what he did in that operating room today, 15 years from now, when Valerie becomes some big man in another hospital, and this patient has a question, or another physician has a question about that patient in the prior hospital, the only way they can get to know about that patient situation is if Valerie wrote what he needed to write 10 years ago. They can't call Valerie in his high position and say, hey, listen, buddy, what did you write? What did you do to this patient 10 years ago? Valerie won't even remember. So that is important. But what do you write? What notes are important? What will you be expected on this? What is query process? What is artificial intelligence medical record documentation? These are all topics you need to be at least at least try to figure them out. Coding, billing, and utilization management. You might think it's not your topic, but you're doctors. You should understand that this is your topic too. So you don't have to code, but you need to know how this coding process happens, because as residents, you will be exposed to these questions. You will be expected to collaborate with these teams. So you need to know, okay, what is that team? What do they do? How can I engage? What's that common ground that we meet at? So these are things you need to know. US healthcare, a lot of IMGs don't even know, and quite a lot of US graduates don't even know the hierarchy or how this whole thing starts and ends. That's something you need to understand. Quality, safety, and patient experience are another is a huge topic, and you really need to get an idea of what this is all about. See, these are all things that are a part of your patient care duties. Don't assume that whatever you read in your textbook is just going to be, your responsibility of doing it by the bedside and you're done. No, that is wrong. You don't have scribes and you don't have paid assistants to do all of this. This is your job. The more you understand that these are all your responsibilities that you will fulfill as a resident and as a practicing physician, you will have less burnout and you will have time and energy like how I have to help others. Otherwise, you will be drowning in your own swimming pool. Work optimization, EMR, and interpersonal communication skills, very important. I will walk you through a lot of these things, but these are important aspects. Common conditions that you will encounter in your specialty, read up on them. Learn about what are those common conditions you will encounter as an intern. Prepare yourself, like, how do I take a history of these common conditions? What's the physical assessment I need to work on? What are the tests that I normally order for such common conditions? What's the treatment plan that we usually do in this country? How do I write all of this? How should I communicate with the teams? Who are all the teams? You need to think about all of these things in this time frame while you're done matching to your July 1st or June end week when you go for your orientation. Residency readiness. Clinical Practice Foundation Skills does provide a boot camp. It's a 2-day boot camp, morning till evening. Currently, we have 2 locations, one in USA and one in Hyderabad in India. The price for the India location will be dropped to $499 because it's not the same as much as it would cost me in USA. But what you will get 2 full days of course training through me on all the 7 topics. And I will give you a handbook to go home with. And you will have 2 30-minute slots that you can use to connect with me after you start residency so that I can actually help you if you are in a situation where you need some guidance. I can't influence your program, but I can find ways to make you stronger so that your program can see you and make necessary edits to, promote you or keep you or do whatever you want. So please consider this. This is not I can mandate you, but I'm going to tell you. Fast forward 20 years from when I did my 1 week of onboarding, life has not changed much for IMGs. And US medical schools are still working on trying to get this health system sciences education to students. But there's also probably a lot of resistance saying, oh, well, this is not important. Well, I'm telling you, if there are faculty who are 40 years in practice and who never even thought about health system sciences as being a topic, they will tell this to all medical schools. But that is wrong. Your life will depend on all of these topics, in addition to your knowledge and your ability to care for patients. So, the more you get these skills, you'll be a star. So, think about it. I think with that, I will stop.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manir, for your presentation. We have a couple of questions lined up, which we'll try to quickly address. So, one of the question is, I think it's a very, a question about a very generic inquiry on, I wonder why we shouldn't rank programs we didn't interview. I mean, what could go wrong or right in that situation if we do that?
It's a good question. I think NRMP clearly states that you will only rank programs that you have interviewed at, because interview is the so application, interview, rank. So without that interview, there's no rank.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Next question is, how does a strong email of support from a physician under whom I did clinical rotations and research help in ranking me up?
It's a great question. Again, letter of intents, strong word from a program or a faculty
Mhm.
that you have engaged with or you've worked at will only be looked at if the other program has time and energy. So it is okay to have someone write a letter for you, but is it okay to expect that it is always looked at? It's hard to say that.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We have one more question is, hello, my question is, I want to know if it is correct to mention about I'm going to rank that program high in my thank you letter or letter of intent.
Yes, NRMP and I think AMA also, I think mainly NRMP to my knowledge, has a clear guideline that you should not violate. The program cannot say, oh, I'm going to rank you super high, or you can't write in your letter that you are going to rank the program high. You can always say, I am very impressed with the program. I look forward to being a part of the cohort. I so very much love your interaction and things like that. But it says you should avoid doing that type of uh, communication.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Uh, we have appreciation and comments in the chat box about the session has been informative and helpful. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining for the session. We'll wait. Okay, we have a few more questions. If a program is good overall, along with fellowship opportunities, but its average 202 to 2024 board pass rate is low, should we consider it high?
So, Jainal, uh, board pass rates depend on quite a lot of factors. It depends on what type of cohort did they actually bring in. It can speak to what sort of learning activities or didactics that the program has in place to get students stronger. Uh, Ultimately, it's your decision. If fellowship opportunity is your next step and you know that that fellowship takes people from that program, irrespective of board pass rate between 2002 and 2024, then I really don't know if I will consider the board pass rate as a big deal or not. Does
Yeah.
it make sense?
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dr. Manaru, for the answer. If there are any further questions, we request all participants to either raise hand or put them in the Q&A box or chat box. Meanwhile, I appreciate on behalf of the American Medical Students Association our deepest gratitude to Dr. Manuru for his presentation and taking out time from his busy schedule to help students with this. And we'll stay around for a couple of minutes to answer all the questions from candidates who will raise their hands and put in the chat box. Meanwhile, I'll drop some important links in the chat box. So I'll drop links of AMSA's website, of CPFS website, LinkedIn pages and Instagram pages. And I'll also drop what I promised in the beginning, that a discount code for AMSA's conference, Future Physicians for Change, would also be shared in the chat box. If anyone's looking forward to attending the convention in Washington, D.C. in this April 17 to 19, you can use that code for while registering, so that you can get a potential discount for that as well. And hopefully in the conference we'll have participants, more IMGs, and participants from USMDs and TOs, and we can keep continuing our discussion about IMG advocacy and helping medical students with the residency platform, with support of amazing mentors like Dr. Manuri himself and CPFS. Now I see Rumi's hand up, so please go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah. Hello,
Romy,
Dr.
Romy,
Yeah.
1 second before you ask. Just another plug I'd like to put in. There's a webinar that I will be doing on February 27th. February 27th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is about Residency Readiness Bootcamp. It is about the CPFS bootcamp that we are offering. It's basically just I'm trying to give you clarity on what will we give, what it does that program offer. Uh, I can field any questions you have about that program so that you can have a good understanding about that boot camp, so that once you match, you'll at least have this information to make a good decision. I mean, ultimately, it's your choice, but I'm just giving myself
Mhm.
and you all an opportunity to actually talk about it and understand, okay, what are you going to give me in this course? How should I sign up? Why should I take it? What's the cost? What's the benefit? So I'm happy to answer any of those questions at that session. So please, if you're interested, feel free to hop on. It's not going to be a long session. It's just going to be maybe about 30, 35 minutes, depending on the questions and the engagement.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
please.
Yeah.
So hi, doctor. Thank you for those sessions. I have a couple of questions actually. My first question is, do this letter of interest, is it really helpful during the match process? Because I have heard that letter of interest is something like, sometimes program director do read and sometimes they don't. So that the second question is like, what is the signals? Like I have heard some signals like golden and silver something. So how we can use that signals during the match process? And yeah, that two right now. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Romy, for these two questions. Are you in this math cycle or are you going to be in the next math cycle?
No, I'm going to be like in next match cycle, most probably, yeah. Because I'm still have to give my steps and I'm still preparing for my steps. So yeah.
Okay, very good. No, I just wanted to ask that question. So, your first question's answer, letter of intent, I mentioned earlier, it is good to send a letter of intent. But will it be always read by a program director? It's hard to tell. Not because program directors don't want to read letters of intent, it's just that they have so much volume of work during this time, and it is extremely hard to fulfill everything. So, yes, it's good. Will it always be read? It's probably not possible. Number one. Second, answer to the question that you posed, signaling. Since 2024, signaling process has been inbuilt into the ERAS application. So you really don't have to do anything separate, but when you're filling up your ERAS application, there are different types of signals for each specialty. So, for example, if you have internal medicine, they have 3 gold and 12 silver. So, that's about 15 signals that you can actually send to programs, signifying your interest or sharing your interest around the program. Signaling does help in choosing candidates for interviews and ranking. And that has been studied by NRMP, and they did put out a paper initially saying that it did help actually programs to pick up candidates who they might not have even picked from that application pool.
Okay, so like how we can signal the programs? Because
So, good
it's we
question.
yeah
When you apply for the residency next year, in the ARAS application, there is a click button. Do you want to signal? And then if you want to signal, what type of signal do you want to assign to the program?
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mandru. So the next question is, I think it's from Shashikant. Up to what date the support email should be sent? If mentor is ready to call for me, should they call PD or PC? Also, support email from multiple physician is recommended or not?
Before the rank order list is submitted by the programs, I think you still have a chance if you want to influence your situation.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Mariam. Does taking and passing step 3 increases our chances of matching as IMG students? A lot of students on my program take step 3 before they're matching.
I would highly encourage you to take step 3 before residency start. Why? Because you will have a lot on your plate once you start, and you will also be expected to participate in training exams that are usually within 3 to 4 months from your start date. So it will really help if you did take step 3 before your residency start. Number one, if you are a candidate who requires visa and you are strongly looking for an H1 visa, then obviously you should have step 3. Otherwise, programs might not be able to extend you you know, a slot also, because if they can't sponsor a visa because you don't have H3, then you will have to go over J1s.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mayank is, does ranking a program lower on my NRMP rank order list affect my chances of matching there? Should I rank program based on my true preferences or based on how well my interview went?
So, Mayank, like I said, you should create a list on what you want, what does the program offer, and then what was your overall experience, including interview. Now, your chances of ranking a program, when you rank a program lower, will your chances be lower? Yes, they will be lower, but will they be zero? No. Because what if the people before you ranked the program, ranked some other program, and then this program was not ranked till your number came, and then you will get into the program.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We have a question from Janil next, which is, if a program is new starting this year, is it a very steep slope in terms of opportunities for fellowship?
Uh, I think see, the fellowship pathway is really good if you have an opportunity in a program that has established fellowships. That's number one. Now, if you don't have a program that has established fellowships, then it's going to be hard no matter that residency program is a new program or an old program. Now, the advantage of being in an old program without fellowships is because you might have other people who graduated from that program and they have done certain things to get into certain fellowships. So you will get an idea. So that'll be an advantage. But when you're starting in a new program, uh, you will have to build your ways into fellowship. Uh, and I will tell you, it's not hard, but it requires a lot of dedication.
Thank you, doctor. Regarding the next question about recording and everything, so after this webinar is ended, hopefully, we'll either put it on a YouTube channel of CPFS or AMSA together, and with all the links that includes the link about the pages which I just shared, about the discount coupon which I talked about, and also the upcoming webinar that Doctor shared with us. We'll compile all of them and we'll send an email to all the applicants and all the participants for this webinar, so you are able to access that. Nikichi, I'll check the link which I shared for clinical practice skills website, and because it is accessible on my website page, so maybe when I put it on the chat box, there was an issue. I'll resend the website link. So yeah, is there any further questions? We'll wait for like 2 to 3 minutes more because and then we'll just wind up everything. So before that, yes, I also said, yeah. Yes, Valerie, you have one question?
Yes. So I have a question regarding general surgery residency, and if you know or you've heard or maybe you have information about that, what should approximately a high rate gen surgery applicant's CV look like, about publication maybe, letters of recommendation, etc., step scores for IMG, how it should approximately look like to have a decent chance to maybe match into the gen surgery residency with the opportunity of continuing into the fellowships.
So Valerie, are you applying for this math cycle or next math cycle?
I'm on my fourth year and I have 2 years ahead, so I'm passing my steps, and then after 2 years I'm applying.
Okay, very good. Thank you for joining this session. So there is a YouTube video on CPFS website. It's called Learn from Surgery Program Director. Check that out. You will get all the answers that you've asked me about in that video. That program director is amazing. I would also encourage you to start looking at prelim surgery programs in addition to categorical surgery programs, because sometimes what I've heard is getting in as a prelim, showing your talent and skill, and then applying for the categorical position, even if it is like first year position, are things people have done. But that video covers everything that you asked me uh, from the mouth of a surgeon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manuel, for sharing that. I'll try to put that link as well, when I send that email. So yeah, Rumi, you have one more question?
Yeah. Sorry, I do have one more questions, Doc, here. Yeah. So my question is like, do program director really look after the gap years of after the graduation? Like, if I have some 2 to 3 years of gap between my graduations and my residency interviews, so do they really look into it? Or if they are, then how can I, convey them properly in like manners that they really like I'm actually passionate about this program and I really want to do it, like anything, like I'm ready to do my research or anything. I'm really I want to match into this cycle. So yeah.
It's a good question, Romy. So gap years, how do you show them on application and how can you increase your chances? See, it all depends on why you had the gap years. So if you had genuine reasons, now genuine reasons include health, family issues, financial issues, natural calamities, uh, then people understand. You can actually write them in impactful experiences section of ERAS application. It's called, there's an impactful experience that speaks about your uh, approach to life experiences or how you manage them or what did you learn from them and stuff. So you can display that there. That's an option. Two, the other reason why people can have gap years is if they were working in a job while they were trying to acquire financial stability to uh, fulfill the journey of USMLEs. So you can share that. But if it happened and you don't really have a reason, it is okay to accept that and say, yes, I messed up and I have come back on my path and I want to give myself a chance and I hope I get a chance. Yes, will there be less chances? There can be, but you've been honest, you're an integral person, you've maintained your integrity, so people will see that.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see no more questions as of now. I will request if people can switch on the video cameras quickly. Would like to take a group photograph. If that's not convenient, that's totally fine as well. But we'll take a group photograph so we can post on our social media handle as well, and we can tie up, everyone. So
And Pratyush, once you record, can we post this on CPFS website, please?
sure, sir. I'll share the recording with you. We can post it very well. So yeah, I'll give everyone like 1 to 2 minutes to set your hair or just settle up a little bit, and if you can, if possible, you
I
can
will
switch
do
on your
that.
video camera. Yeah, I'll do that too possibly. So yeah, I'll count till reverse countdown from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Anyone else joining in? Yeah, I have more videos opening up. 4, 3, 2. Okay, now I'm gonna click it. Um, I've clicked the photograph. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Again, I really appreciate everyone joining today's session on behalf of AMSA and also on behalf of CPFS. And I really appreciate Dr. Manuru for sharing all the wise words today in today's session. And looking forward to future events and future collaborations where we'll be able to share and help IMG more into the matching process. I know it's a tough phase for every applicant when you're in the residency process, but with mentors, with right mentors and right guides and right training, I'm hoping that everything should fall into places for everyone. So all the very best to people who are applying for the current cycle, and also good luck with steps and rotations or whatever phase of application you are. So it's a long journey, I guess, but I hope it would be worth it. I cannot say it is worth it because I don't have my outcomes yet, or I haven't started the next phase, but definitely, everyone has, specifically IMGs, have tried a lot in ways of moving from a different country and going into residence in different countries. So we truly appreciate that, and thank you so much for attending to this session. If you have any comments or feedbacks, feel free to reach out to me, and if you have any further questions, you can also email me and I'll share that with Dr. Manuro and CPFS so they can connect, and they can guide you or mentor you more properly, because I think they are the experts in that field. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity. And thank you, Pratyush. Thank you, AMSA. Thank you very much for hosting CPFS and me.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck, Valerie. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye
Looking
bye.
forward to working with you in the future.
For sure. Thank you.
Goodbye.